Hey guys, this is Mr. V over here doing a book review today for End of Watch by Stephen King. This is the third and final installment in the Bill Hodges trilogy. Before I get into my book review, I want you to know that I try to do a spoiler-free book review, so if you see me looking down, I just have some notes. So try not to give any spoilers away. So let's get into the book review today for End of Watch by Stephen King. Before you get into this book, this is again the third and final installment in the Bill Hodges trilogy. I would not recommend this book unless you have read the first two. Even if you've seen the show, anything like that, make sure you've read the first two books before getting into this book. So, this book, End of Watch, I thought that it had kind of an odd beginning, but I didn't have a problem with the odd beginning because I felt that all three of the books actually had kind of weird beginnings, but that despite it having kind of a weirder beginning, I felt that it picked up pretty quickly. And that it does pick up, and then you basically get all of the main characters from the previous books. You know, you get Bill Hodges, you get Holly, you get Jerome, you get Brady, you get all of them, and you get from the previous books. And, you know, it's fun seeing their interactions because it's, again, the third installment, so it's almost like the final part. So that is a lot of fun when you see all their interactions, knowing that this is the final book. And because of that, you wonder, like, what the finish will be. Because there was things leading up to this book. And, you know, the two books that were leading up to it, Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers, you know, had a lot of action, had a lot of interesting segments on their own. But it's all leading up to this final segment and like, okay, what will happen? And, you know, that is a lot of fun. And, you know, I can't say too much, but like the previous books, you know, this definitely had some nice twists in it. And I actually think that in this book, compared to the other two, had one humongous curveball thrown in there. And it was about 2/3 into the book. That's why I can't really say much, but there's one humongous curveball thrown in there, and that really makes you wonder, like, okay, how will it end? Because you wonder, first of all, how will the book end, but how will the series end when he throws this humongous curveball in there? And it is definitely a lot of fun for those regards. But I should say that despite it being fun with that, like, humongous curveball thrown in, I felt that Bill Hodges, he figures some things out a little too quickly. I know he did that in previous books. That I know that was some complaints from other people, or that sometimes he can figure something out a little too easily or a little too quickly. And this one especially, considering how big a curveball he throws at you, I thought that for Bill Hodges to figure something out so quickly, it took away from that aspect a little bit, you know, that surprise element a bit. And I felt he also could have had like a different way to figure something out or discover something, you know. And that's just my opinion for that. Again, I can't comment on what that was. Now, some of the things that I did not like in the book, and this is going to be a minor spoiler, only a minor spoiler because it is thrown in there within like the first like few chapters, but something that I really did not like about this book was that he starts to add supernatural abilities in the book. And he does it with like telekinesis and the reading of minds and mind control. And I did not like that because this comes out of nowhere. You know, Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers did not have any of that. It was just everyday things. Yes, Bill Hodges may figure some things out quickly or maybe a little too coincidental, but it didn't have any supernatural elements. It was just the everyday thing. And that's why when he starts to add these supernatural abilities, it really just comes out of nowhere. And I don't know why he did that, because it wasn't in the other books, and I felt it didn't fit. I didn't think it added anything to the book. I actually think it took away from the book a lot. I felt it took away tremendously from the book because, again, it's just he did not put it in the other books, so it seemed forced. Like, you have two books with just everyday things, and then all of a sudden in the third book you get the supernatural abilities. And, you know, there was others online that were fine with it, but there was others that also felt the same as I did, that it just took away from it. And we were all wondering, like, okay, why? Why did you throw it in there all of a sudden? And you should know that I'm not against, like, these, like, supernatural type of books. You know, I enjoyed Firestarter. I enjoyed The Dead Zone by Stephen King. Both those are good books, and those just come off the top of my mind. So I'm not against it. But you want to kind of expect it going in. And for this book, you know, you already had read two books leading up to this, so you kind of knew what you were going to expect, and then all of a sudden he throws supernatural elements in it, and you did not expect that at all. And I would say you did not expect it at all, and it did not come in a good way. You expected it to be somewhat normal life and then all of a sudden like supernatural elements happen. So I did not think that was good. I thought that was pretty bad, and because of that, I felt the book overall just was not as intense as the previous books because he threw that in there. Like, you didn't feel on edge as much. Like, I just didn't feel the same as I did in the previous books. While there were nice twists, and I said there were some humongous curveballs thrown in, especially in the 2/3 moment, I said he threw tremendous curveball in there. The supernatural elements started from the beginning and it continued throughout the whole book, but again, it just did not fit. And you know, you definitely want to know what will happen, and you definitely want to know how it's going to end the book and all that in the series, but you didn't want to know as much just because, you know, he threw that in there and it felt forced in the book. Now, as for his writing style, I felt the writing style was the same as the previous books. You know, it was very well written. There's a lot of dialogue and it's very easy to follow. So if you've seen those books, you know, or you read those books, you already know what to expect, you know, because he already developed the characters and he already set the scenes well, and he already had done all that in the previous 2 books. So you already know what to expect with the writing. So if you enjoyed the writing style in the previous, it'll be the exact same in the 3rd one. So, you know, just know that. And it is fun that this did finish up the series, that he wrapped it up well, and again, it finished up the series, and you definitely wanted to know how the series was going to end, because, you know, this was the 3rd one. But I felt that this book, End of Watch, was actually the worst in the series. Now, even though it's the worst, I would not say to skip this book, because you definitely should read the book because you want to see how it ends. But overall, I thought the book was a disappointment just because it was the worst in the series. I really enjoyed Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers. I enjoyed both of them. But this one was the worst, which made it a disappointment because I thought that, you know, that this was a really fun series overall. You know, I really enjoyed reading the series, but that adding that supernatural element, you know, just brought it down, and that's why I put this as the worst in the series. But, you know, let me give it my official rating right now. So I always rate my books on a scale of 0 to 10, with a 0 being an awful book, a 5 is an average, and a 10 being phenomenal. If it gets anywhere near 10, you know, put that on your reading list, because I'm a pretty tough critic, so it's hard to move up even 1 point in my rating system, and a 5 is average. So, for the final book, End of Watch, I'm going to rate this book a 4 out of 5, which is below average. The other 2 books got pretty far above average, and this one got below average, and I would say the reason it got below average was just because while it did have fun elements in the book like the previous ones, and it still had some very fun elements, some very fun plot lines, all that, the supernatural elements just felt so forced, and it just took away from the book overall. But I still enjoyed the book. Again, even though it was below average, I still enjoyed it enough to give it a 4. But you know, because it was very fun seeing how the series ended. You really want to see how the series ended, and I just thought that it was fun seeing how the series ended. I thought this was a very fun series overall. But, you know, if you guys have any questions or comments, please post it in the comment section below. I hope you guys click the subscribe button, as I always upload multiple different types of book reviews. But thank you for watching my book review today. This is Mr. V. Go enjoy reading.